consistent across the states, or we will have no justification of challenge nationally.
So that's kind of what my thought has been, is that we, as in the people, figure out what it is that we like. If we cannot stand the machines, then we come up with a maybe 7-point or however many, and we look through each state, and each state's responsible for coming up with their objections to it, right? And then everybody, so then we kind of create a template, and it's kind of, you may have to actually sit down. And I mean, I honestly am at this point where I'm figuring out it's gonna take bulk, it's going to take, and it may be people having to like sweat it out a little bit, because there's not a lot of attorneys standing up, because they are not going to go against the establishment. They are not going to go against the bar. You've got courts whose judges are on the actual ballots, so they're scared to death to touch these machines. And I mean, I'm starting to think like you need to just go after your secretaries of state and say like this, and your governors, and say this is unacceptable. We do not want these machines where we have no access to them. We don't know what's actually being counted, and we come up with the reasons why, and we all firebomb them over a period of time. Like we try to get like launch round 1, and then we follow them, and then you come in with a second group and you break down in little clusters, and we all file them. And then that way, you may change up a couple of factors because maybe one set, but at some point people are gonna be like, okay, they're serious, because they won't go away.
If I can say, the number one stonewall to election reform in Texas is Keith Ingram. Keith Ingram needs to be dissipated and go work for whoever, and he needs to be gone. If that gets done, Texas will be able to fix their system.
We have a lot more problems than that in Arizona. We can't get anybody to do the right thing. Nobody to do the right thing. So I would also.
It's basically
that's a money issue. You got to follow the lobbyists. What I would suggest in y'all's spot in Arizona is y'all need to have like a dedicated team who tracks all of the Dominion lobbyists and run like a helmet cam on them and post it publicly so everybody can see what offices those lobbyists are going in and out of. So when you've got people like Fan and Rogers, who I just saw was hanging out with Lindell tonight, and all these other people, they need to be put to task because their words are not matching their actions.
Right.
Yes, that's the point, right? Like, so $7 million, $15 million, a huge amount of money was raised for the Arizona audit, right? And that was not done. I think we missed an opportunity. So everything that you guys are talking about right now, think about if that money was spent wisely on building a team that has some kind of national council that, I don't know, maybe meets every day and they talk about the different actions.
You realize where that money went, right? It went from the people to the people that were running the racket to begin with.
100%. 100%. But that's what I'm saying. Think about all the wasted time and all the wasted money when there could have been a logical and like effective, I'd say, plan put in place.
But you assume that we have the narrative. The only place that people are is in Telegram. And nobody was paying attention to the Arizona audit in the cameras in Telegram. They weren't watching it until I started my channel, and it took off from there. And there weren't a lot of Telegram channels on there at the time, but the ones that were there were already infiltrated. They were already running operations in all of the Arizona groups, and then I tracked them down into the swing states. So
I'm saying you have done great work. No.
We have a narrative.
Let David talk.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying you guys have done great work. All the grassroots people have done great work. But what I'm saying is we lost an opportunity from, say, January to February to build a cohesive network so we can attack these problems fucking logically, right? Because now that there's so many different Telegram groups going here and there, and then Kelly's got her stuff going, but there's no command and control. who the people thought was command and control, made an ass ton of money,
Yep.
right? That all
We
that
have
command
some
and control that needs to just go
brainwashing
away.
to do.
That's
And then
why I
reasonable
said
people
I
need to
told
sit
everybody
around
to
and
stop giving them money because they're not using it for what they said they were going to. This goes back to problem and solution. What do you think the people gathering money from the January 6th event are doing? They had something to do with that crap. They either mind warped people into going or they actually coordinated it. And that's facts and that will come out. So
Yep.
just
That's
get
true.
ready for that because when these people that you're all worshiping comes out that they actually set your asses up, then you're going to be like, oh, AFA, the deep state, they actually told us the truth again. So you need to start listening to we the people instead of these people that have millions of followers and they're millions of dollars and are buying new houses here and there and are buying new cars and $500,000 tour buses and going to speak at Clay Clark and jumping around the stage drawn cues and sending them to the Pope because those people are not helping you. They're hurting you.
okay, look, I'm not saying to forget that fraud happened because people seem to think that I said that. What I'm saying is
No, they
there
just
needs
can't
to be
listen.
people, there needs to be people paying attention to moving forward, okay? But there also needs to be a much more organized sort of methodology about how we approach people in different states and different counties, because right now there's just a bunch of people running around, a whole bunch of Indians, and basically no chief who we thought
Correct.
was the chief.
We don't
Not the
we
chief.
do no,
So
we don't need a chief. We need lots of chiefs, not just one. We need a lot. This is
that's
good.
what I'm saying.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. How do we do that? How do we build a national council that has representatives from every state
Who's
that
going to
can
run the
talk
council?
about these things and hash them out?
A board.
Because we are duplicating tons of efforts over and over and over again at every state, and it's just waste time.
Yeah,
It
but
wastes
at the same time,
manpower
they can't.
and it wastes
It's
energy.
harder to target when you've got 20 different people out there trying to work the same problem. And if they get rid of me, there's at least 19 others. So it's good that it's not centralized. I don't think it needs to be centralized. I think it's good that we talk and we can agree on certain things. But I don't think that I think we need more chiefs and we need more people to step up and be a part of this so that the that 8 of us or however many are on this call aren't the only ones trying to fight the deep state basically. So we need more people to step up and we need more input, and I agree we need to be on the same page. And I'm going to stop talking. The last thing besides no machines is that we need cameras so people that every election is transparent, and we need streamed cameras to every election. That's my other request for what it looks like going forward, so that people can watch the process and hold them accountable.
And
Well,
so,
and
Josh,
yes.
I just want to ask you, say you're put in charge and you are in charge of figuring out what happened in the 2020 election. Where would you start?
Okay, so from the research and everything that I've seen, I've broken it down into 4 sections. So first is the digital manipulation, or what they call adjudication. That would be where my cyber focus would be on. Other than your normal, your Splunk logs and your network diagnostics, that department. The other portion I would look at is the human intelligence side, and that has to do with the people who were staffed within the central count. I would want to find out every person who worked in there, who hired them, how much they were paid, and this ties back to CTCL, Election Task Force, and all of that intel. And then the next part would have to do with the paper suppliers, because we know in dealing with Runbeck that Runbeck were using foreign suppliers that were being brought in at different times. They were running ballots across state lines. They were not following federal guidelines. So those would be, and that's where like Jovan would come into play. I would have Jovan run kinematics and actually be able to give scientifically proven evidence of the paper, because CISA very specifically lays out the security features that are supposed to be on that paper. And in all honesty, all election papers should fall under the U.S. Mint. If they're required to make our paper with safety features to prevent it from being frauded, then the second most important thing in our country, our election, should be handled by the same department, at least at the Secret Service level, to be able to make sure that that piece of paper can be tracked. And I saw someone earlier talked about the disadvantage to blockchain technology with paper. Patrick tried to steal my creation because I created the blockchain system for the ballots. And what the purpose behind it is to create a distributed system that can track it, that nobody can be able to crack into, and to be able to track every hand that ever touches a ballot. Almost like if any of y'all have ever used Lotus Notes. I was an engineer before I got in the military. We would use Lotus Notes to be able to track all of the jobs that we would work on. So my design had that programming built into it, and they would all have a QR code written into it that would be able to also provide authenticity and tracking within the system. But once I left ASOG in November of 2019, all of the information that I worked on and built up, Russ Ramsland basically stole and went and started pimping out to everybody who would, let him prostitute himself to them. So those four would be my focus. I have an actual layout on all of that based off of all of the evidence that I've seen, to be able to know where to direct the cannons and where to be able to make a lot more effective audits
Can you
take
clarify
place.
this is not the Secret Service that would be doing this? Somebody just said, he did say Secret Service.
Okay, so Kelly, how would you approach that from like lead counsel for some organization? How would you approach those 4 items that Josh was talking about?
So then you take it. So he's got, and I agree with him, by the way. He and I've had this conversation. And you would just basically come up with a standardized method of attack. So you would take your facts, you would get your facts down pat, right? Find out where the law, what elements that applies to, like what specifics in the law, if it's coming out of the standards, if it's coming out of like the federal aspect of it with the EAC, or if it's state level decisions. And then you've got like the lobbying aspect of it. And then you also have, courts, you go through the courts and you push it through to make sure that we have certain specific things. And you just have to look at the laws in each state to determine, because some of this stuff is, and that's what I'm saying, like, so some of this stuff is, they're already in some of the states' laws. They just don't look. This is what everybody kept saying with the legislature is, I was like, we don't necessarily need more laws. We need them to follow the laws that currently exist. And they're not even doing that. So it depends on each state.
Like you were the coordinator, and there was one attorney, like in particular, who was running that state, and then you would speak with them, and then all these states, I think you would have sort of your arms wrapped around exactly what the problems are from speaking with that one attorney,
Right.
And then that one attorney would say run a team of 2 or 3 other attorneys and start working through the lawfare in a semi-organized manner, right? I mean,
right. And then that way we have consistent messaging in our plans of attack across every state, so that when they're going to their legislator or their judicial conferences, they're hearing the same arguments out of each state. That's how you can effectuate change. You can also, go and start pushing it in DC, take whatever it is that we come that's pretty uniform across the board, whatever changes it is. And then you just start going up there and pounding the pavement in DC. So you could have a group that's going to go up there and just start going, office to office and laying out the documentation and doing that stuff. I mean, we've got to do it the way they do it, the way corporations do it, right? It's a multi-pronged attack, and we're just going to have to do that to get where we need to be. And honestly, if we want to get this stuff done, so that in the next like 8 or 9 months, we need to figure out a pretty quick strategy and at least get it going so that we can prevent them because she's right. They're trying to pass bills that will that basically federalize our entire election process, and they do away with a lot of the safety. They're screwed because of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Some of the stuff that they want to do violate that, which is ironic because they say they want to, you know, lessen the burden on minorities, but the reality is they're diluting the vote to harm the minorities, but they're trying to do it for minorities. It makes no sense. Like they're actually, it's the weirdest twist I've ever seen. Whereas now, as a, you know, here I am as a conservative over here going, but what about our Civil Rights Act? You know, here were the protections for our vote. You know, what I want my fellow Americans, regardless of, you know, ancestry or heritage or race or any of those things, to have the same equal opportunity as I have with our vote. I want all of us to have a vote and a voice, you know? So it's weird, but those are the things that we have to start looking at. And it's your state legislatures, it's your judicial branch, and it's Congress. And you've got to get all of those going.
Kelly, can we go,
who agree
David,
with
I'm sorry to walk on you. Can we go back to talking about a game plan? Because I think it's great to talk strategy, but we need a game plan because time is escaping us and we can't waste a single more moment.
Well,
They're moving exponentially and
I think that's what we're doing. I think
okay.
that's what we're doing right now because, so like you have Kelly, let's just say, for example, she is the national law coordinator, right? So now we got to find a team, some attorney from all 50 states or however many, and then they can build up a team themselves. So all of this stuff is organized. And then you have people
Which
like
that's not hard. That's not hard, by the way, because we have a giant attorney group from all of us that got caught up in the elections that are coming from a ton of states. And then those kind of spidered out from there. So like the attorney part, there's like one or two attorneys pretty much in every state. Well, not every state, but I would say I've had like probably a good 30 states worth of attorneys that if I go back and search my email, I can track them down. So I don't think the tracking down an attorney who's willing to step up to the plate is as big of an issue as actually getting an organization together and getting, you know, a basic business plan in place with deadlines and we're going to do this by this date. I mean, you know, as long as we've got the volunteer teams and the channels, I think we can get everybody on point with what those points of attack are, and then everybody can start pulling their own law and looking at, you know, what they see as issues in their own elections, right?
it sounds,
And
yeah,
then
it sounds perfectly doable. It sounds easy to put this together. And you got people like Josh and some of these other people who are really, really knowledgeable about the certain aspects of fraud and certain things that need to be looked at. It doesn't seem like that heavy a lift. I just don't know how like $20 million went into nothing land, right? Because
exactly.
that's
There's
what happens
got to be more than $20 million
organization.
between all of them.
Right.
They've got the America Project, Sydney's, Flynn's. I think Lynn has two things going on. Clements has got over probably 30 to 40 for prisoners and all kinds of crap. And then him and Joel Altman both got a $500,000 one. So, yeah, we're deep state, but they're the ones that are bazillionaires.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to know, too, people are asking, how is Patrick Byrne tied into this? Where did he come into play?
Josh?
Oh, I thought you might want to know if you had any other. I already know what Josh knows, but I didn't know if there was any other ties that you knew that we didn't.
Well, yeah, I mean, with
I know the
Patrick, I
Russians
don't know much about
behind.
Patrick Byrne, but I do know that there's a financial incentive for him in some of the applications that he helped to develop. It's in his financial interest to perpetuate this thing as long as possible, especially if they can get the smartphone voting application approved at any point in the future, right? That's going to be huge money coming to him. So,
Yeah, and he didn't even vote for Trump, and he wrote a book about it, and then he charged $40 for people just to see a preview.
yeah. So, I'm not saying don't fix 2020. I'm saying there's a better way to go about it, a more organized and a more like methodical method or methodical way to do this, to stay organized, to not duplicate effort, and to stay on the front end of it. I don't think that that's too hard to. I don't think that's too much. to
Well,
ask
we've
for.
discussed it, me and Josh and Mary and a bunch of us, and like in Texas, Josh and Kelly and I were all in Texas, and when we got those 4 audits in those counties, we kind of knew that something was going to be shady, and of course they come out saying that, they're doing it inside.
I mean, when you
But
got people, like you have people who are just running out unilaterally to like Pima County and pulling some data off or doing an image that does it from their own MacBook and then exposes their name from their own MacBook from taking the image. And then they nobody used Encase. Everybody was using Autopsy so they can do the data carving. Like that opens up attack vectors that people can use for the next 3 years to stall any forward movement, right? Because that's just stupid. That's just dumb, period. And I think things like that totally hurt everybody who's looking for the election integrity. Hello?
you're
I'm
still here.
here.
I can hear you.
Okay. That's just dumb, right? That gives an attack vector for people to go ahead and just sort of silence any efforts. Any reasonable efforts get silenced because of the stupid things done beforehand. I mean, Mike Lindell didn't have PCAPs. That's the reality. Like,
Yep.
sorry for what he said. That's the reality. And everybody who knows anything about PCAPs or like any level of like computer security knows that they were not PCAPs, right? But they just keep it going on and they keep it going on, and that turns everybody's switch off. So to get people switched back on, there has to be some kind of organized effort, I think.
And you have to control the narrative. That is the problem, is that everybody working against us, they're a lot bigger than we are. And we're easier to marginalize. So it literally is David and Goliath right now. So they control the narrative. I can control what's on my channel. And so yeah, it's easy to say that, but it's harder in real life, on social media, in Telegram, to get the message out there, because these people are adored and they're loved, and they're convincing, and they're using, they're hijacking issues that suck people in. So it's controlling the nerve is the hardest part of the situation. We can do a lot, but we also need to be able to get the messaging out, and we're smaller than they are. So
Yep. But if you're more organized and more methodical, that lends itself to credibility. Right now, all those big accounts, I'm sorry to say, they just don't have credibility.
Well, and the thing too is that the data, so this is a very important part. The data that all these people have, these people popped out of nowhere with all this magical data. Draws's data came from the New York Times, and her data shows vote flips for Trump too. So yeah, that's really going to help us if we're, it's if you're trying to do data, it's kind of like, okay, you can't prove once you can prove it was happening and it wasn't right. So you need an audit for transparency. But then when you try to take it somewhere, it's like it makes you look kind of dumb, kind of like Mike Lindell stuff. Nobody that's a real legislator wants to have anything to do with Mike Lindell stuff. Our guy in Texas wouldn't even talk to him because he literally, to people that are not into this stuff like we are, he looks like a lunatic, to be honest. This is what legislators say about him. The PCAP stuff, none of us have a clue what PCAPs are. Only the tech people do. So that's why they chose that, because they knew none of us would have a dang clue what was even going on. So then when they outed Josh, all of us are, all of you guys are running around like, he does have the PCAPs. He does. And y'all don't even know what a PCAP even is. Y'all are just saying that because Mike Lindell said it. This is
I
the
was
stuff
telling
we have to
everybody.
stop.
I was telling everybody long before, this is a total fraud. Like, there is no PCAPs. This is an absolute lie, right? Because it's just not possible to have all the election data. And once I saw Lindell, And again, I'm not saying that Lindell's a bad guy. I'm saying I think he got sold up the river on a bunch of stuff, because once he said that the $5 million, he specifically made a point to say, not from the election, right? All the data he has is all from the 2020 election, but it's not network PCAPs, right? So that's when I knew that it was completely a total farce, right? It's just not going to happen. People don't have, nobody's listening to every single internal network, right? And if you're collecting the global internet traffic from election night, you got to have a lot more than 34 terabytes, right?
Well, the
So
thing is, they choose things we don't have any clue about, and then they pick one of them to represent that, and then they take turns pushing it to us, telling us exactly what they want us to know about it. So then, whenever it comes around to it, and it's another, busted balloon, they can give us whatever solution again that they want to tell us because we don't even know what they're talking about.
yeah,
So it's just like the thing with
that's why you
Kyle.
have guys
His
like
mom
Josh,
didn't know,
all
and
the
they took
technical
advantage.
guys working on your guys' side now, right? Like the
We don't.
actual people who are doing things to get things done, right?
Yeah.
Right? It's just a mess. It's a total mess right now.
But people are so brainwashed by all these people, and it's so like my dream come true would be to even get some people on the left to agree that our elections have been messed with, because guess what, that means George Bush probably didn't get elected. So it's not even about parties, it's about our vote as citizens being jacked with, and it doesn't matter who won. We just need to make sure that we are the people selecting that person.
Right, but the problem is because of how polarized this thing got from the start. I mean, all those lawsuits being filed by Lynn and by Sydney, I mean, those things were done so hasty that it made a mockery of people who are looking for the election integrity, right? It seriously did. I'm just going to say it. Like when you have all the spelling errors, that looked like it was just slapped together, some of those lawsuits. And I think that took a lot of the credibility away, right? Like this
The
thing.
Kraken lawsuits.
It was a disinformation and discredit campaign. That whole them getting to Trump and everything, that was the beginning of them spinning the narrative they wanted to spin so they could grift off of us. That's all that shit was. Excuse my language, but I mean, that's all it was. They had no intention on helping us. They had intentions on getting super rich and controlling all of us and becoming powerful. And then here we are. Every time we actually need their help and money, okay, well, the what? And then nothing at all, period. And every time something doesn't work, like the PCAPs or something, they find a new solution, like canvassing. Oh, we're all going to go canvass. And guess what they've been doing? The GOP has been sending people out to clean up stuff before we can even get to it that way. And they won't give us the voter rolls. So we can't even see if the voter rolls were correct, to where whenever they go and manipulate them, we can't even say that they manipulated them because they won't even give us the voter rolls.
Right. Right.
And that's in Republican places in Texas. That is in Texas. Republicans are more corrupt than anybody.
So I think conversations like this should happen more often, and then people
Agreed.
can voice their opinion, and people who are raising their hand but just haven't been allowed.
I just
to
haven't.
talk yet, probably have
round table.
probably have great ideas too, right? If you want to make this truly about we the people, then it needs to be a concerted effort from we the people, right? Not from like 4 or 5 people who happen to be taking in massive sums of money every time they say something, right? It needs to be a legitimate, say, we the people effort.
And that was what was frustrating. And that was what was so frustrating when you were actually with the organizations that were supposed to be doing some of the work, was that they like isolated themselves. So they wanted us all volunteering, right? And I did. I mean, I flew myself around the country, and nobody reimbursed me or anything like that. And I didn't care because I was on the, I thought I was helping. And then they like self-isolated. So you ended up with like volunteers dropping like flies because we couldn't keep it up. And there was no budget. And then we found out they weren't even using it anyway, and that became disheartening. And so it was just one of those where it was like it couldn't ever get to where it was like truly like grassroots or bigger. They isolated it, took command and control, and then targeted certain things. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So it
Oh,
didn't have a chance to spread the way it should have.
100%. And there's a few organizations who brought in a lot of money, a lot, right? And that's sad because it was a wasted opportunity again. And that's why I was so frustrated back in March and April, because I saw it going this way, right? I mean, that audit, it didn't matter what the audit found, because there's too much surface area for it to be attacked, right? That's just the way it's the way it is. And it sucked watching it happen, and it just kept going, and people kept asking for money, and nothing really came out of it. Sure, they found some duplicate ballots. Got it, check. Well, who were those ballots for? That's what I want to know, right? Specifically, who were they for?
Yeah, that's
Because
what we were all asking too.
it
Yeah,
just
see, and they didn't even check that. And see, I don't know why they didn't in the audit, why they didn't sort the stacks. You
For
because
know?
5 freaking
I have
months.
I have a report coming out here pretty soon. One of my admins is working on that. I'll post, and you can post Lulu too. It goes into details. It's got every document linked, everything source in one place. It's big, but it'll show you exactly what happened, and it'll show you, yeah, it's gonna expose a lot of stuff that I didn't even know had happened, and I've been sitting here watching it. So um, as soon as he gets that done, we'll send it out, and then everybody can have links and sources, and they can see all the documentation, what was done, and where it went wrong. That'll be the important part.
and there's a lot of lessons that have been learned. So if there is another audit, what's the best way to approach that? I think it's some kind of bipartisan, like, I think you bring in all the skeptics from the left, you bring in all the skeptics from the right, but you bring in a lot of different people, and you talk about it, and you get your TTPs figured out, right? And then you do it, and you let the other side audit you, right? But there's a better way than some brute force audit with a very biased individual and biased company that happened, I think, sort of in all the darkness. I think that's totally doable, right? And maybe I'm just an optimist, but I think that's totally doable.
No, I always tell everybody, and from the beginning, I told them, look, I don't know if we're all going to get an audit. I don't know if anybody's going to get an audit. But at the end of the day, we all came together. We met people in every state. We formed a family, and our common goal is freedom. We've learned about the FOIA process. We've learned our laws. We've learned about all kinds of stuff that we had no idea about. So at least we are a smarter population now. And now we're waking up to the radical people in our movement and realizing, hey, that stuff's not cool either. So, but it doesn't mean that you're a black hat because you think something's a little too off the rails. And then you realize that they're all working together. So it's been a big awakening for everyone, I think. And I've been telling people this whole time, we need to just work with each other. We need to just work with each other. And I've been called everything in the book. And I'm like, all I just care about is y'all. That's it. I just care about us because these people are not going to save my kid's life like we are. And right now, all I care about is my kids' lives. I mean, and everybody's kids' lives. Like, we owe it to them to have a good future. And we're not doing that by following these people.
I don't think the Arizona audit was total loss. I'm not talking about necessarily the fraud, but I think it woke a lot of people up. I don't think many people were paying that much attention to it. And the cameras drew, I mean, we drew a shit ton of people to the cameras to watch the audit process. So I think a lot of people woke up to the fraud and woke up to this being an issue and woke up and started paying attention for the first time ever. They tried getting people to watch the cameras from the first 2 times and they couldn't. So there's a lot of good that came out of this, and there are a lot of lessons to learn. But it,
Right.
but I think the more eyes on these audits and the more eyes on our politicians, the better. It's the only way we can hold them accountable, and that's how I started, and that's what I want to continue.
Can anybody speak on the Mesa County, Colorado info that Lindell released at the symposium?
Yeah, I know Josh can, but since he's not here right now,
Okay, Lee. I
yeah.
don't even know if he can speak on it though.
So you had somebody,
Whose phone is vibrating?
the Ninja
Mine,
Surfer,
sorry.
the Ninja Surfer, Conan Hayes, where he had gained access and he imaged and he also set up Wireshark to pull down some PCAPs from the open election sort of Wi-Fi, but not the voting one, just like the Wi-Fi from the election like department, right? Problem is he imaged one of those machines. I'm sure Josh will kind of tighten me up if I'm going outside the norms here. The problem was he took that image back, but he used his MacBook Pro, meaning he copied everything from the machine onto his MacBook Pro. And when he did that, the host name of his computer showed up in the investigator log, right? So it says like CJH MacBook Pro.
Yeah.
That is week one. That's week one, day one bullshit, right? That just goes to show you the kinds of things that they were doing that they really had no business doing. At least the people didn't, right? Like anybody, I'll tell you how I would have done it in the teams was I would have taken some completely non-attributable device, which they ended up doing on the second machine. They bought a device. The problem is that for some reason they bought this device brand new and they could get it off of Amazon. I think it was a mini Zeiser. I could pull up the specs. On the second one, they used like this particular device, but they didn't use it first and download all the update features. So all your Windows, all your McAfee, all your virus definitions, all that stuff was still being uploaded onto this freaking device. And that's what all the data is. Everything is a Windows update information and all the McAfee virus scan stuff. I think they use a small sort of computer, kind of like your MacBook Minis. But at least they were getting smarter about it, right? So on the third image, they finally figured it out. And I think they used some totally non-attributable like device. And they used like a USB dongle, probably even captured with a Linux OS. So that kind of like rookie activity, that got him caught. That got CJ, that got Conan Hayes caught, right? Because he left his imprints and then they published it and nothing was carved out using EnCase. Everything was using the autopsy program. So they got themselves in big trouble there because autopsy is a SANS software. And Doug Logan is I guess he's a SANS like certified architect or whatever. So that kind of nonsense just completely discredits any election fraud sort of forward movement, if you guys understand what I mean. I'm not casting doubts on Lindell. I'm saying
This guy has been doing this all night.
he got his information from Conan Hayes, who used his MacBook to image the computer, right? There's no doubt about that. So I'm not casting doubts.
I saw it too.
I will say that I think like Lindell knows that those weren't PCAPs. I think he knew, but I think they were much too along in the narrative. I mean, like the whole Frank speech and all the other documentaries, he couldn't pull back. That's why he didn't give out the PCAPs, because they don't exist. The information they got was from certain, I'm just trying to keep up with what the people are saying.
You're the next one on Bannon getting blasted.
Well, bring it on. Anybody who knows anything about any computer security absolutely knew that there was never going to be PCAPs.
Yeah.
And there wasn't.
And Space
Period.
Force doesn't
Full
have it
stop.
either.
Period. Full stop. He said there was, there wasn't. Full stop. But yet it goes on for another 3, 4, 5 weeks.
No,
Like
now
2
he's talking to AGs and giving them some other kind of data he has and canvassing. That's what they're on now.
Yeah.
I'm like, I
And
don't want
he,
Mike Lindell standing with 10 feet
and he
within
just
my
stated he has 8. He has 8 AGs. Doesn't have 50. He says he wants to get 30. He has 8. He just stated that 2 days ago. Right? So I don't care what he's showing him. He's showing him all the information from, I think, Pima County. Right? And we just talked about that. Some guy named Conan Hayes, who's a surfer, that goes into a protected office that does a image of a voting machine. You're going to have a lot of problems even using that from an evidentiary standpoint. Am I right, Kelly?
That's
Yes.
that's what
I
Job
didn't have
said.
my button up.
And guess what? We're almost 100% positive that Conan's friend is Kane Kaneko, however you say his name, from Hawaii too. And guess what? That's the videos professor used at the symposium. Do y'all see how this all goes in a circle constantly? All the people that are the most popular, that make all the videos, that do everything, they're all in one big circle.
And I'm not some like freaking deep state shill. I mean, I served my country honorably for 15 years. I was trying to tell people about this
Thank you,
back in
brother.
April, and they freaking attacked me, right? Ruthlessly. That should tell you something.
But Kelly, correct me if I'm wrong. If they're doing with the attorney generals, the AGs, the same as they're doing to us, it's just they're keeping them busy
Yeah, so
because
that
they
was
have
what I
nothing to
noticed.
show them.
Confused.
That's why I had issues because okay, let's take Russ Ramsland, which was ASOG here in Texas. And I know y'all are tired of hearing of Texas, but this is what I know and this is what I watch. So here in Texas, we were coming up for our election integrity bills. Everybody was patching together. I was helping a couple of grassroots people put together talking points and all that stuff. And here comes Russ Ramsland, who's propped up by the establishment here, which by the way happens to be the Bush related clan, right? And so there was this basically he was misdirecting them. So any like sincere stuff where I wanted that a court could override the contract between the state and the companies, the election equipment companies and stuff like that, that got kicked out. I had it added into one of the bills and it got kicked out because Russ came in and cleaned it up. And then so also the other one was I wanted to shift the burden. So when here in Texas for our election challenges, it has to be candidate versus candidate. I wanted a cause of action where we the people could come in and say we've noticed X amount of irregularities. Here's evidence, where people actually witnessed stuff, and we actually could file a case, but it shifted on the burden on the state to prove to us that the election was valid, to override our concerns instead of us having to prove they're wrong when they have all the evidence. Does that make sense?
Yep.
And that got struck out too because Russ Ramsland came in and cleaned it up. So that's the problem that we have, is that if you have and Arizona was correct when she was saying that, they have the bigger platform. They have because they are the ones breaking in the money and they have the media push behind them and stuff like that. And they can control the narrative. And that's the issue I saw during the legislative session for us in the spring.
Somebody asked about Cindy
It's just going to
Powell.
keep going and going and going. And that's my frustration point. It's exactly where you are, Kelly. Seeing this stuff, seeing where there are sort of avenues to change things, but then these doors are getting slammed because of the I say brute force attempt by like people like Lynn Wood and his whole posse, right?
Right.
So it's just, I'm not trying to be a divider. I'm trying to look at a better way. right? Something that will be
And we're
productive.
looking at a way for we, the people, to not have to deal with these people. Like, if we come together by ourselves, we all have different talents and expertise. We can do this. We don't need them. And we
Right.
don't need people telling us what to do if we're all doing it together.
And
But
we
I
just
think
need
that
to wake people up to it too. I mean, this is the first a lot of people are going to be hearing about this. So I think that's going to be a step that we have to take first is exposing what's going on. I mean, we know it because we've lived it. But the people in Telegram listening to this is going to be news to them, and it's going to take them some time to process it, unfortunately.
And people naturally get a knee-jerk reaction. But I would just say to them, look, what really has gotten done for you with all this money and all this time, right? Everybody was sort of pushing on the Arizona audit thing. And I'm sorry, but like if you have to explain 56,000 like duplicate ballots as whether or not that changed the course of the election, then there's some issues there, right? Especially given everything that they were claiming at the very beginning of all of this. That's my big problem is they were claiming, you know, Venezuela and all these other people were flipping these votes and these algorithmic changes and everybody was logged in, and you're just giving people too much credit, right?
But
Far
that's the
too much
whole psyop. They overpromise, underdeliver. It's been a cycle from day one.
credit. You're right.
Hype it up, nothing. Hype it up. So that's how people can discern between who the good channels are and the bad channels are. If people are like, "Oh, we're gonna, you know, we're gonna have this big boom coming out, and it's gonna blow everything up," and then nothing. I mean, it's been a roller coaster, and that's part of the narrative. They control the narrative. They get everybody hyped up. I remember when I had to clean my chat room up because everybody was like, "Oh, there's 200,000 ballots missing," or something like that. And it's like, well, the audit doesn't confirm it, so guess what? We don't publish it. We didn't publish any dates. We didn't publish anything that we didn't think we could verify. Little did we know we were still getting played, but the people who promise you a whole bunch and then nothing happens, those are the people that are running this, and their goal is to get you defeated, get you to check out, to stop paying attention. They want you distracted. They want you divided. They want the infighting, and it's typical, you know, psychological operations on everybody in Telegram. And so that's how it started. So just
And all of
explain.
us are from different states for the most part. We didn't even know each other until a few months ago. And we're all coming and telling you this, and we all put pieces together. So we're not deep state. We're different people. We're moms, dads, veterans from all over the place. And we just happen to come together because of this. So, you know, we're not getting paid to come together and do this. We're literally spending hours with you guys to give you information that you would never know because we are the ones that have been put through hell.
And I would answer a lot of the people, but for some reason or another, I didn't say anything bad earlier on, but a bunch of people got mad that I was talking, and they reported me to Telegram. So
Me
I
too.
was
I'm reported.
I was actually suspended for having a conversation about this because I mentioned Lynn's name. So that
I
should
can't
just
even comment on other channels till the 3rd of October. I've never even been reported like that. Just today.
yeah. So take a look at who's trying to censor who right now, and you know, it's cause for concern, I think.
The feds stay on mine and Kelly's phones. Every time we're on the phone, we get disconnected. Like I'm like, I can't have a phone conversation with anybody without my phone shutting off on its own. Like, we are constantly attacked, y'all. We have been attacked. We get so much crap that nobody would ever know about, and it's just getting to the point where things are escalating too quickly. And that's why I've been going so hard on the channel, because you guys have got to wake up and start looking at what has been going on, and we have to just band together. And I'm not telling you listen to me. I'm not telling you listen to Kelly. I'm not telling you listen to David. I'm saying listen to we the people. Not me, we.
And stop with the deep state nonsense, because
It's such
One of
a-
the biggest problems is I've been speaking about Lynn because I know Lynn, right? So I was sharing my experiences with Lynn, right? And I gave proof that what he was saying was an absolute lie over and over again about me. And I was sharing the evidence. And people are scared to look at the evidence and come to the conclusion that's right in front of their face that Lynn might not have been exactly truthful, period, right? That doesn't make me deep state. It's ridiculous. And
Yeah.
every time you listen to people saying, oh, you're deep state shill, or that is them just trying to completely like discredit that person because that person probably has something to say, right? So enough with the deep state crap. We're talking about a better way to do business, right? Something methodical, something where everybody can be involved in it. We're not talking about shutting down all the audits across the country and moving on. We're talking about how to do it more effectively and better. So I just want to get
While
that
filling positions for the midterms.
right.
We got to multitask. They have one target for a little while, but we have to multitask behind them to counter them in all the ways that they've got. These people have an army. They have an army of trained people that already knew their mission coming into this. We came into this knowing nothing, trying to help our country, and we've had to learn how to counter them the whole entire time. So it's not fair at all. These people are trained and you should look it up. It's online. And these people are literally agents. They are connected to agencies, the people that have been doing this to us. So, you have to work with each other and give each other grace and stop with the deep
May-
state crap when we're just trying to tell you the truth.
Yeah, May 3rd, I started reaching out for help on the the Arizona Live Feeds channel that I started on EOJ's empty channel. So I've been trying to blow the whistle on this since May 3rd in Telegram. I haven't stopped. So just use your discernment. Look at who's produced stuff. Look at the facts. Try not to get sucked in emotionally by people, because that's sure and heck not what we're trying to do. We're trying to get people to wake up and figure this out.
And the worst part about it was I feel bad for the kid, right? Because I have my issues with Lynn. I mean, the guy pointed a gun at me and then lied and said he would lie to the police about it, right? I mean, that happened, and that's all on recording. He then went on to Fight Back Letterhead, and he stated that he told the officer he was in fear for his life and I was a maniac and all this stuff, right? The reality is he didn't think about the officer that responded that I called the police on Lynn. He didn't think about him having a body cam running and recording the entire conversation. So what Lynn put on Fight Back Letterhead stating that I was some out of control fool or whatever, Lynn did not. He lied. It was and is the most blatant example of lying that one can do, because you can listen to the audio that I have from the deputies from his body camera. And what Lynn said, he said, never happened. It was a lie. Big lie. Second to that, I actually started recording from the inside of the house when he pointed that gun at me. I got my phone and I started recording. So you could hear Lynn say, that's what the police are getting ready to hear, buddy. Right? So like all of these audios are on Linwood Speaks Lives, right? Because these are no shit examples of him lying. And if he's going to lie about things like that, he's going to lie about plenty of other stuff. And he has. And so I've been going to battle against Lynn because of this stuff. The unfortunate reality is because I'm close to Kyle, he's been dragged into it, right? So
Poor kid is not even 20 years old yet, is he?
have you seen anybody on the right-wing media stations say a word about Kyle? It's huge. No, they haven't said
That's
a word.
because Lynn's tied to Murdoch and Fox, just like they called Arizona early. That was all their doings to distract us from any type of manipulations throughout. It's all the media. The media has done all of it. Like as far as manipulating the people, they've used journalists and media for everything.
But here's the scary thing, right? Some of these podcasters have told me that they were told to not talk about my issues with Lynn, not to talk about Kyle.
Whoa.
These were Kyle's biggest supporters. The one link between all of them is they're all sponsored by the right-wing broadcasting network, and I'm sorry to say, by Lindell. So
Don't be
I mean,
sorry.
people need to talk about this because this kid's being railroaded, and this kid is dealing with a constitutional issue that is going to affect everybody. So don't let my drama with Lynn sort of infect that. I would ask people, hey, what's going on with Kyle? How come nobody's talking about it? Because they are railroading that kid like you've never seen before, right? There is zero evidence that that kid has ever been associated with any extremist group. They want to put him out the pasture because they want your guns, and they're going to take this win. If they get it, I think they're going to get crushed. They're going to come after your guns.
Yeah, he's literally the middle of that. Like he is going to be the turning point of our Second Amendment, and that's one reason why I did want to have y'all on, even if he couldn't say a lot, just having him on because I mean, I was thinking about when I was his age, like dealing with something that he's dealing with, that's ridiculous. And then I think about being a mom and dealing with that, and it's like people need to know the truth.
It's terrible. They were calling him a white supremacist and a racist and all this stuff. And I'll let you guys in on a little something here. So just 2 Fridays ago was the last hearing before his trial starts on November 1st. And the prosecutor came out and said that they have a FBI video. Okay. The FBI was doing surveillance flights over the protests in Kenosha. And for the past year, they've had this FBI video that that shows everything, right? It shows everything, but they don't know how to read IR video, or they don't know how to understand it. So they made a claim, and the defense couldn't counterclaim it because they hadn't seen the video yet, because the prosecution kept it until the last possible second. But they claim that Kyle confronted the first guy shot named Joseph Rosenbaum. The video does not show that. The video is exculpatory. The video shows that the guy Joshua Zeminski and Joseph Rosenbaum, they ambushed Kyle. It shows Rosenbaum running to a hidden position between 2 cars. And when Kyle walks by with a fire extinguisher, he runs out from behind those 2 cars behind Kyle and then attacks him. And that's what made Kyle run from Rosenbaum. Eventually, he ran out of real estate and he turned around, and Rosenbaum has his hands on the barrel and Kyle engaged. So if you want to talk about prosecutorial misconduct, I'd be the first person to point to the Kenosha prosecutors. It's been horrific treatment of Kyle from the very beginning. So I do feel bad that I have beef with, but Lynn should not be attacking Free Kyle USA, which is Wendy's fundraiser, just because I'm part of that, helping him, right? And that's what Lynn has been doing, dramatically so. Go to his Telegram page and type in David Hancock and look at everything. What's funny is he won't say his fraud claims anymore. Like, he won't say that I was like dishonorably discharged. He won't say that I stole. He won't say that I did this. He won't say that I did that. because he knows what's coming, right? He knows what's coming. He's got one hell of a defamation coming to his doorstep.